Whether we're aware of it or not, music has some sort of role in our daily life. Some people listen to music during their commute to work, school, or anywhere else. Some people blast songs that they scream in their car when they go through a bad breakup. Or even some people make their own music because they want to tell some sort of story. These are three of many examples that show how music plays some sort of role in a person's life. Music is like my best friend. We are inseparable. There hasn't been a single day of my life where I'm not learning something new about music. And every day there's something new for me to explore musically. Whether it's learning an instrument, performing to an audience, or even listening to music alone. Music was and is my first friend since day one. This is my story. This is my life in music. Now, my parents aren't musically inclined, but they can both sing, one better than the other, and I'm not going to say who's better though. My love for music came from my Lola. Lola is the Tagalog word for grandmother. She played the guitar and ukulele, and she also sung. Lola was the person who introduced me to the world of music, and my parents saw my love of music through Lola.
When he was a child, we saw that he had interest in music. He loves to watch his grandma playing her guitar, so we bought him a small guitar and a harmonica.
Even though I wouldn't know how to play chords on a guitar until I was around 7 years old, I would still strum the guitar and sing along. No matter if my Lola or my parents sang to me, I would always be hearing different genres of music, sometimes even singing along, even if I didn't know the words.
The memory that I recall when he was a child, he loves to sing all these songs like Puff the Magic Dragon, Love Hearts, Cuando Cuando, Release Me.
Whether it was playing the piano, drums, guitar, or even me singing, my parents saw that I had a love for music and that I should learn more about music in school or in private lessons.
Yes, it is important for him to take a music education rather than other activities because of his determination in music.
Once my parents saw that music education was right for me, they began looking for music programs in East Harlem. They came across the Harbor Conservatory for the Performing Arts, and they enrolled me when I was around 5 or 6 years old. I took lessons there every Saturday for about 7 years. During my time at the Harbor, I took lessons in piano, guitar, music theory, and was also a member of the children's choir.
Well, first impressions are just him just showing up at like 5 years old to my class and being adorable, of course. And slowly, I was, again, very impressed with how he would absorb the information. And week by week, his just growth.
Shadia was my first teacher at the Harbor. Every year I took her piano lessons, and she wanted to see my growth with new repertoire, whether it was a pop song or a classical piece. While I was in piano classes with her, I was also one of her first members of the children's choir.
Well, also, Tristan was one of my babies when we started the choir together. And I remember starting the choir with like 7 students. And slowly but surely we started growing the group, and it became more and more popular within the program, which was great. And they kept inviting us to represent the school in different events, like, the Mandarin Hotel was one.
In retrospect, being a part of the choir showed me how to collaborate with other musicians, and Shadia helped me understand how to be a leader of a choir or a band. I went to elementary and middle school at Tag Young Scholars, which is also in East Harlem. In the 3rd grade, with the supervision of my 3rd grade teacher, Ms. Blount, and the K-4 music teacher, Mr. Levi, a student and I co-created the student-led band called the Thunderbolts.
Welcome to our spring performance. I'd just like to say this, the Tag Thunderbolts I'm sorry, 2 through 4, and these are all children who practice music outside of the school. So many of them seem as if they're accomplished pianists and guitarists, and even they'll do a little singing for you today. So these are children who volunteer every Friday to give up their lunch break, and they come to my room and they just practice. I know nothing about music, it's all them. So I'd like to welcome you to our performance. I hope you enjoy.
I'm Corey. I'm 22. I have known Tristan since like first grade, so that's 2005 or 2006. A lot of the songs that we played were more suggestions that you came up with, like songs that you had in mind, and we would practice. I know Mr. Levi would be there, like watching us. Ms. Blount was kind of like the overseer, teacher person to make sure things didn't go wrong. But it was like Mr. Levi telling us like what we should do, what sound is good, and then Tristan, you give your own input because like obviously you know about music and whatnot.
The Thunderbolts did many performances whenever TAG had an assembly or concert. Before the Thunderbolts, I had never formed a band, but I knew that I had peers in school who were musically inclined, so I thought, why not form a band to combine our musical abilities? Being a part of a band was so much fun, whether it was a rehearsal or a performance. No matter how many members of the group there were, we all got along and we all played our strengths off each other, bouncing ideas to make the performance fun.
No, I'm gonna be honest, being in that group did make me feel like super validated because all of you were like super musically talented. I wasn't really like that. So it did feel nice that you guys still included me even though I wasn't at your level.
So I'm Rick Faulkner. I've been a music teacher here at TAG Young Scholars for 13 years now, I believe, and taught Tristan for 4 of those years.
From the 5th to the 8th grade, which was roughly 2010 to 2014, I expanded my horizons musically by learning new instruments. Mr. Faulkner, who I called Mr. F, saw that I was bouncing around different instruments almost every year.
Well, it was always a challenge to keep you stuff that kept you challenged, you know, because the thing was always, because you were such a strong musician even before you got to my class, that I needed to make sure I had stuff that was going to keep you interested and not bouncing off the walls. You were one of the few students who I felt could pick up different instruments and just run with them, and I didn't need to have to worry about having to give you much of any instruction. You could just sort of go with it, and I could trust you to figure out what you needed to do.
In middle school, I joined the Latin Jazz Ensemble, which was a band of 6th to 8th graders, and I played the bass. It was the first time I ever picked up the bass, and I learned to play it pretty quickly since I knew how to play the guitar.
Latin Jazz, to my knowledge, it's the only middle school level Latin Jazz group or Latin group in the city. There's a high school level Latin ensemble that is more like an all citywide. And the reason I started it was, well, 2 reasons. One is that it's part of the fabric of this neighborhood, being in East Harlem. This is part of the history. Latin Jazz really was pretty much born right around this neighborhood in El Barrio. And then also it's a way to approach the jazz side of things, but using Latin rhythms helps. It's a better entry point for a lot of kids. It doesn't require drum set, which takes a lot of training and skill. And then we had that group when you came in, my original group mostly all graduated when you were in you had 5th grade. And so I had a pretty much like 1 or 2 students hold over, and everyone else was 6th graders from your class. And I was wondering, how's this going to be with all these really young little kids? And you guys just stepped up and ran with it. And we had that core group from 6th through 8th grade for 3 years, and the way that group developed was really, really fun to see.
Being in the band opened my eyes to a new genre that was quite literally close to home. Now, I didn't do much musically in high school until around my senior year, where I learned about music production, but that was really it. From what I learned at the Harbor, from Mr. F, and from high school, I'm applying what I learned into what I hopefully think will be a full studio album in the future. Still no pending date. I'm sorry. But I'm still learning more about production and also about songwriting while I'm recording music. However, on Sundays, I play the piano and for about a period of 2.5 years, the organ at my church, which I still do today. One thing that makes me happy as a musician is when I impact somebody musically, whether it's teaching them an instrument or showing them something new about music that they never saw or even thought of.
Tristan inspired me musically simply by a lot of the music that he was doing. I had no idea really was that good. I thought it was a thing in the past, but whenever he would start singing these songs I knew nothing about, he really opened my eyes to music in general and how it could be, how there's more out there if you take the time to listen and to understand how times have changed and how everything has evolved.
My musical journey is still being written. This isn't the end. It is because of people like my parents, my Lola, Shadia, Corey, Mr. F, and Muhammad that inspire me to continue to do the things that I love best: perform, write, produce, and teach music.